All right, to my guest, thank you so much for being on the show. How you feeling? How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I feel good. I feel good. Today's a good day. We're here. It's not
Okay.
sunny. It is raining, but we're here, so it's okay.
It is a good day. I feel nice and relaxed. Like I feel ready to conquer the day. So I feel good too.
Yeah, it's a good day.
Listen, I am so excited to share your story. I know when niggas see you, they be like, yeah, you could take me to jail, baby. How many niggas try to hit on you?
Only you, how many times I've heard that? Like, especially back when I was in uniform, every day, every single day.
Anybody cute?
It didn't even matter because
I
I'm,
know they going to jail. I
I
know.
would it. And even if it was somebody who wasn't going to jail, it was someone who was just saying that. For me, I'm like, if you would even say that to me, you're not my type.
Yeah. That's what
Mm-mm.
she's saying, y'all. But she a baddie, y'all. I know niggas be hitting her at the station all day, every day.
Listen, between them and the coworkers, girl, it's a mess.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
let's start from the beginning. What kind of kid were you growing up? Like, were you always drawn to like protecting people?
I am the eldest daughter.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense. Me
So
too.
as the eldest daughter, it's like I've always taken care of my younger siblings. Like on
Hmm.
my other side, I have three younger siblings. So I've always been the protector of them.
Hmm.
And so it was in me. I didn't want to be a cop, but
Hmm.
I guess just the way that I grew up, it kind of God makes no mistakes. So it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah. We have a lot in common. I'm the oldest out of, and I have three younger siblings too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, all girls.
Listen, the eldest daughter, girl,
Child. Right.
listen, eldest daughter is serious.
It is stressful.
That part. But it prepared me. I'll say it did help prepare me. But yeah, eldest daughter,
So tell me about the first time when you thought, you know what, I want to be a cop. Like, where sparked that moment?
I never thought I want to be a cop.
Hmm.
Like that thought that some people have, like as kids, oh, I want to be a cop. I want to, save the day. Say that was never me.
Hmm.
Oh, I actually wanted to be a veterinarian.
Oh, wow.
I went to school for pre-veterinary medicine. Like literally went to college for pre-veterinary medicine. But, the first 2, 3 weeks you get your first exam. Mine was like the a diagram of a cow with all the parts labeled and you had to match them up. And I was like,
Hmm.
no, I'm not doing this. So I literally got up in the middle of that class of the test, walked out,
Hmm.
switched my major from pre-veterinary medicine to criminal justice. But even then, I didn't want to be a cop. I wanted to be a forensic psychologist.
Mm.
But
Oh, you
obviously,
smart, smart.
I try to be, thank you. But I mean, obviously, even that didn't happen. So, a little bit of my backstory, the beginning of my junior year, I got a phone call that my mother was ill and she was hospitalized and she would be in the hospital for quite some time. And at the time, those younger siblings were minors. And
Mm.
he wasn't in the picture at that moment. He had his own things that he was dealing with. And so
Right.
at that call, I literally packed up my dorm room and dropped out and went home to take care of my family. So
Oh, wow.
I was 20. It was the beginning of my junior year, and I had to become an adult overnight. So I had to find a job to supplement income. I had to put food on the table, clothes on backs, pay the mortgage, or at least as much as I could. I'm doing homework and baths and parent teacher conferences
You
and
became a mom,
my
a
mother,
single mom.
power of attorney, like all of that overnight. And it was a lot. So fast forward to my mother getting better
Hmm.
and me trying to go back to school. So living in the area that I lived in and then traveling like an hour to school every day. So I would work from 8 a.m. to 4 a.m., get out of work, hop on the main road to get to where I was going. It was an hour and a half in traffic. So I would get to class, sit in class from 5:30 to 8:30, then try to go to the library to do my papers and my studying and assignments. I would leave there at like 12 a.m., 1 o'clock in the morning, stop at a rest stop, set my alarm for 5 a.m., sleep, get up, drive the rest of the way home, get dressed, and go back to work. And I did that Monday through Thursday for a year.
Oh,
It
wow.
got to be too much. So I was like, I can't do
I,
this.
of course.
I dropped out again. And so then I'm just working. So then fast forward, my mother is retired law enforcement. So at this
Mm,
time, she's on the job and she had been trying to get me to take the civil service exam, which is the exam that you take in order to become law enforcement in a lot of states, specifically this state. And
mm-hmm.
so she was like, she came home from work and I was in my room crying. She's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, listen, I just got paid. I just paid my car note, car insurance, credit card bill, cell phone bill.
Child, that didn't have me in so tears so many
Listen,
times.
student loan bill for the degree that I did not have, because remember, I dropped out earlier.
Right.
And I was like, I only have $26 left. And I'm
Mm,
like, that's not enough to put gas in my car for the next 2 weeks, let alone for me to live. And I'm like, I'm doing this the right way. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. And it's not getting me. And this is not enough. I can't live off of this. And my mother was like, well, listen, if you take the civil service exam like I've been asking you to, I will pay your car note and insurance for a year.
okay.
And I was like, bet.
You guys say nothing but once, baby.
Say less. We weren't saying say less then, but I was like, say less. And
Right.
so I took the exam and I scored extremely high and I got certified by several different departments. And I went with the one that I felt was the best at the time. And I went into state corrections and I went to the academy and I was a state corrections officer for a
Oh, you
year.
was a CEO.
Mhm. That's how I
Oh,
started
wow.
my career.
I know you don't play no games, baby.
And don't, and don't.
Listen, me and my guest, when I see her out, I make sure I am close by. Like, because I know if anything was a pop off, I know I am good hands if she's nearby.
Listen, it does not matter if I am in boots, flats, a 5-inch heels, a gown,
I know
jeans,
you got that strap ready.
strap is on me somewhere. She is my buddy. Wherever I go, she goes.
Listen, and then it's another young lady that I met, and she's also a detective too. And she was like, hand me my purse right there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, damn, what you got in here? It feels heavy as hell. She was like, I got my strap. I said, okay. I said, listen,
Anytime that happens to me and somebody's like, what you got in here? I'm like, you know what I got in there. They're like, oh, you're right.
I don't play no games. I'm like, bet, say less. I wish somebody would pop off.
And it's not even a matter of me trying to be super cop. It's just a matter of like this world is crazy right now. So
Yeah,
I I don't know that I could live with myself if something happened and I didn't have the tools and resources that I need
not
to
the
act.
tools and resources. That's what we calling it.
That's what I'm gonna call. I mean, but to do what I
Yeah.
hope to do, like it is my job to protect. I'm not that person that's like on my cop stuff 24/7. But if I'm
Hmm.
out and something happens, I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna respond. You know, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make sure my girl is on me at all times.
Right. Did you and your mom or like your siblings ever have to have a conversation about that time period where you had to step up? Because that's a lot of responsibility for a 20-year-old.
It wasn't really a conversation. It was just I just did it.
Yeah.
Like when I got that phone call, I did not even think about not going home. It wasn't a thought at all. It was just like, okay, all right, I'll be there.
Right.
And I did.
Right.
My siblings, I mean, they understood what it was. Mommy was in the hospital. And so I had always been the eldest daughter, right? So they're
Yeah.
used to me kind of taking care of them to a certain extent. Not to say that my mother didn't take care of us because she is an amazing mother. Like
Hmm.
my boo. I love her so much. But I was the eldest daughter. So, they were used to me bossing them around when we were younger. So it is.
Yeah.
I remember when we were kids, my mother would be like, clean up. And I would delegate assignments to them and I would be the supervisor.
They're like, here she go, y'all.
So they would be cleaning up and I would be supervising. So, but yeah, fast forward to that time, it was challenging, but we got through it.
Yeah. So are your siblings or anybody else besides your mother surprised that you are in law enforcement? Because you've been doing this for almost 20 years, right?
I am in my 18th year,
Wow.
18th year, and I can't believe it. It's like it's been a journey, but when I think back, I remember the very first day of my first academy because I've been through two, but I remember the first day like it was yesterday.
And were
I
you nervous, hopeful? Like, how are you feeling?
was nervous. I kind of knew what to expect because again, my mother
Mm-hmm.
is on the job, so she told me what to expect, but I was nervous. I knew I would
Mm-hmm.
make it through. Like I didn't have any doubts about making it through, but it's just nerve-wracking. It was residential, so I had to live there Monday through Friday.
Mm.
It was for corrections, so I couldn't have my phone. They were, conditioning us to be in a jail or a prison without your phone. So I didn't have contact with the outside world. It was a lot. I hated it.
Yeah, that's a big shift from going from a large family and being outside, being do your thing to being on lockdown.
Lockdown.
Yeah.
I hated it. I hated every second of it.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So when you first started, like, what did you think the job would be compared to what it is now?
Well, I mean, the job when I first started is different from what I do now, just
Right. Because of the,
starting in corrections and then transitioning over to policing. So, but like when I first started, the job kind of was what I expected it to be. And I guess that's because my mother was in the job. My mother was a corrections officer.
hmm.
So I somewhat knew what to expect going into it, but I was very nervous going into the prison. Like just anxiety. Like I knew I would be good, but I'm walking into a prison with a bunch of people who are incarcerated. I don't really like the word inmate anymore. I try not to use that word anymore. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Yeah.
incarcerated persons, like that wasn't my lifestyle.
Were
Like
you with men or women?
I was with men.
Mm.
And the prison that I worked at, the men who were there were from age like 18 to like 35. So they were younger guys. So it was really interesting going into a space where that age range of men are the men who would be hollering at me on the street,
Yeah.
right? Because I started at 23. So I was
Mm.
there with like my age group. So
Your
it was
peers.
to a certain extent, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting because I was navigating like making sure that I showed up fair, firm, and consistent. That's something that we learned in the academy and it stuck with me. I wasn't the person who was going to overdo it, but I also wasn't the person who was going to be taken advantage of.
Yeah. Because the moment they see weakness, it's a wrap.
A rap. And so I had to come in with like that strong demeanor. And it's interesting because some of them would say, yo, she's mad cool. And then other ones would say, yo, she's a bitch. And
Right.
my motto was, you get what you give to me. If you come at me with respect, then you're going to get that back. If you come at me crazy, then I'm going to have to handle you accordingly. And so,
Hmm.
and when I say handle accordingly, I wasn't the person to put my hands on somebody like unjustly, but they knew
But I'm gonna match your energy.
they knew what it was. That was my reputation.
Right. Mm. I don't know if you listened to the last episode I did. I accidentally took someone's life, and she was a CEO. And very unfortunate, very sad story. Like you have to listen to it. But to make a long story short, she was on her way to work. She was a law-abiding citizen, never been into any issues, obviously, because she works in law enforcement. And a person cut her off on her way to work, which caused her to have a very severe accident, and
Mhm.
somebody died in the result of it, and it got put on her. So make right, it's so sad. So anywho, so we was talking, and for a period of time while she was in jail, she was somewhat paralyzed. And she was in a wheelchair, and she was just saying how, she saw the difference between women prison and men prison, and how she was like, she used to be a CO for the men's prison, and it was way more easier than being in a woman prison. And she was saying how women prisons are just like ruthless.
I could see that. I,
Yeah.
I've never worked in a women's prison, but I could definitely see, especially being a woman working
Mm-hmm.
in prison. So if you think about society as a whole, where unfortunately, I don't subscribe to this, but there are unfortunately too many women who do subscribe to cattiness and pettiness.
Yeah.
That type of jealousy and nonsense. A woman's prison is just a microcosm of society, right? So
Yeah.
have that type of environment where the women who are incarcerated have been traumatized, they've gone through things, they've experienced things where they're not operating at their best selves for them to even be incarcerated in the first place.
Right.
Then you have women who are the officers on top of that telling them what to do. It creates a dynamic. That's actually a documentary or study somebody should do. Like it just
They should.
creates a dynamic where like women who I know who are CEOs have always said that it's been harder for them to work in a women's prison than a men's. I've
Like
never,
David, and you would think it would be harder to be work with men.
mm-mm. Women
Yeah.
wanting to fight you all the time and stuff like that, where you don't, at least I didn't experience that when I worked in a men's prison, and I worked there just under a year before I transitioned to policing. But I didn't experience guys wanting to fight me all the time. I experienced the men who were incarcerated trying to holler at me or trying to get over on me, trying to get something that they weren't supposed to get. Like if it was extra time out of their cells or extra food or
Hmm.
soap or pad, stuff like that. But that's them trying to see if they can get you to do something small that you're not
So
supposed to.
they can work their way up.
They can condition you to something bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so talk about that transition from being a CEO to now into policing.
Yeah. So, um, while I was at the prison, I got certified by another department, and I actually wasn't going to leave. But one of my closest friends, he had gone through the academy with me and went to the same prison as me and got certified by that same department at the same time.
Mm.
And I was talking to him about it, and I was like, I'm not gonna leave. Like, I'm here. I've gone through the academy. My coworkers know how I am. At the time when I was using that phrase, the inmates know how I am. Like, I'm good. I'm chilling. He was like, if you don't bring your ass with me out of this
Right.
prison, like, why would you choose to intentionally be stuck in a prison for the next 25 years of your career?
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to transition out and then be able to do so many different things. And so because of him, I took the new job, but I had to go through another academy because there's a difference in the certification between corrections and policing.
Yeah.
Corrections academy is preparing you to be inside of a jail or a prison, where policing is preparing you to work outside of it. So I went through another academy, and it was a lot, being the only Black woman in the academy.
Mm.
But I was the only Black woman, he was the only Black man. It was us against the world.
The colonizers.
And they treated us that way too.
Oh wow. And how long is what's the time frame for the academy? Like is it a year or
5 to 6 months,
mm.
like anywhere between 20 to 25 weeks.
Oh wow. And you felt every bit of it.
It, every single bit of it.
Mm. But
But
are
yeah,
you glad that looking back, are you happy that he pulled you with him? Because what do you think your life would have looked like if you would have still been a CEO for 20 something years?
I am 1000% happy that he convinced me to leave. I don't think that my life as a CO would have been bad. I know I would have made rank by now. I know I at 18 years in and I test well, I probably would be a captain by now, lieutenant or captain. I
Yeah.
could see that. Um, but the quality of life is just not great. You are essentially incarcerated too. Like for that 8 to 16 hours that you're
Yeah.
there. There's no access to outside life. You can't just go take a walk. You can't just go get lunch.
Yeah.
And you could get stuck if something happens, and
Hmm.
as dangerous as it is policing on the outside, it's just as dangerous, if not more, as on what COs I call policing on the inside.
Yeah. I used to date the CEO. He was so fine. But he used to be a CEO. He was so fine. He was a C. She laughing, y'all. But he was a CEO at Rikers. And like when I tell you
Reconsider.
he was, huh?
Don't do it. Reconsider.
Listen, read some litter because he was miserable. Like, and then I didn't understand, when you're not in that world, you're like, where you at? Like, it's 3 o'clock. And he'd be like, we locked down. Like, it was a crazy fight. Next thing you know, the inmates fighting the police officers, so we just can't leave. Like, he'll be stuck there until like 24, 36 hours. And I'm like, nah, this is crazy.
To keep a go bag in my car just in case I got locked down and needed to get like a change of clothes, a change of underwear, a toothbrush, like, if I even had the opportunity to go to my car to get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's real. And the fighting all the time is real, especially in the prison I was in. Those young boys fought all the time. I was in the best shape of my life.
I bet
Work-
you were.
I was running from one end of the prison to the other end every day. When they called out that code, I'm running from one end to the next. 'Cause that's just what it was.
Yeah. Y'all should definitely listen to the episode I did with she's retired now, but she was a CEO at Rikers. You said you listened to it,
I
and that
did
was a really good conversation.
good, yeah. And I understood what she was talking about, even though I was only a CO for just under a year. I related to everything that she was saying. And not for nothing, I think that every officer should, it's my belief. Everyone doesn't agree with this, but a lot of people do. Every officer should be a CO first before
Hmm.
they go out to the streets, in my opinion.
And why is that?
Because as a CEO, you learn interpersonal skills, you learn communication skills, you learn how to speak to people, how to de-escalate, verbal judo. When I am in the prison and I'm working a housing unit and I'm on a tier and there are 100 guys who are living on that tier, and I walk down the tier and if I open the doors and half of them come out, so there's 50 guys out, am I going to be tough Tony? Or am
Right.
I people with respect and treat them with respect? Right? Even
Hmm.
they're incarcerated, that doesn't mean that they don't still deserve respect. Now, you come at me crazy, then I'm going to address you accordingly.
You're
But
gonna look
I'm not
crazy in the eye.
right. But I'm not going to just pop off on somebody unnecessarily. I'm putting myself at risk. Right? These are guys. As tough as I might be, I'm still a woman. Right?
Yeah,
So if one of them hit me the wrong way,
it's a wrap.
if one of them decides that they want to sexually assault me, I mean, I'm going to fight until the end, but essentially these guys could end up doing whatever they wanted to do to me. So I have to operate in a way where I'm treating them with respect so that I can get that in return. It's reciprocal.
Yeah.
When I don't have all of those tools around my back, around my belt inside of the prison, like I don't have a gun,
Hmm.
a taser, I don't have any of that. I have, a key for to open the to unlock the gates. And like I have a radio with a little red button on it that I can hit while I'm getting my ass kicked, if I can get to it.
Wait, so you didn't have a gun on, are you?
Ooh, there are no guns inside of jails or prisons. Mm-mm.
I mean, I guess that would make sense because God forbid if one of the inmates get it, that's a wrap.
Exactly. Absolutely no guns inside of jails or prisons.
Mm. Okay, so we're gonna get into your first day on the job as a police officer, but I want to know your thoughts about all of the corruption that goes on within prisons because you have people either having babies with the people who's incarcerated, you have people that's like hustling and like it's just so much corruption that's going on, or even with the sexual assault and things of that nature. Like, what do you think about that? And what can be done to make it better?
I mean, there's a lot of that goes on. There's a lot more of that doesn't happen. Let me start with that. The bad things tend to be highlighted. And
I agree.
so there are a lot more officers who are not engaging in that behavior. But for those who are, is like, was it already in their character? Or was it a matter of them slowly being conditioned? The people who are in prison or jail, they don't have anything but time to study you, right? And so
Yeah.
I used to say to my coworkers, like when I was working, I'm like, do not use my first name. Do not talk about like where I'm from. Like, like I wouldn't talk about like restaurants that I went to, just in casual conversation with my coworkers, because those guys are listening to everything we say. I didn't
Mm.
want to talk about who my football team was because then they would know what area of the state I was from. Like I kept it real general because I did not want people to know anything about me so that they could try to use certain things or find
But
out.
that's that street smarts kicking in.
It's like find out who my mother is, find out who my siblings are, like
Yeah.
target them to try to get me to do something that they wanted me to do. I was very cognizant of that stuff. And maybe it's because my mother was on the job, but I was like, I'm not with it. And I made sure that my reputation was they know she ain't the one. Like I
Yeah.
would come on a housing unit because I'm the young, cute chick, right? Brand new. I come on a housing unit, all of a sudden, these jokers got their shirts off or they in
Hmm.
braces, they doing pull-ups, they doing push-ups. And I wasn't with it. I was like, put some clothes on or lock in.
Hmm.
Oh, you can't tell me what to do. I'm telling you, put some clothes on or lock in for the rest of the night. It's your choice.
Mm.
Choose one. And they will put some clothes on. Or there were some who be like, man, fuck this. I'm locking in. Listen,
Right. This bitch got me fucked up.
it's your choice. But
Right.
in doing that and making that name for myself, they knew I wasn't with the shits. Like they knew
Hmm.
that I wasn't that chick that they could get that off on. So
Yeah.
I never had a situation, and granted, again, I was only there for less than a year, but I never had a situation where someone asked me to do something I wasn't supposed to do or put or bring something in mm-mm. Or any of them tried to come at me sexually. I had like one blow a kiss at me or something like that, but I just like I wrote him up, like, like, but they knew. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And he was new. And it got to the point where they would police themselves. So if there was a new guy at the prison who didn't know me,
Like she don't play, don't do that.
and he would start, the other ones would be like, nah, 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 chill, chill, chill. Nah,
Right.
we got him, we got him. I'm like, get your boy. Nah, 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 we got him, we got him, we good. Because I used and I guess maybe I got this from the academy, but it's like, if one messes up, you all mess up. So if one person disrespects me, everybody on the housing unit feels it.
Yeah.
And where they would police themselves. So
Listen, one sound, one band in this bitch.
listen,
Y'all better tell old boy.
a sound one band.
Listen. Now you spoke about how certain things in the academy, it felt very it was very real, like being that you were the only black woman and as well as your partner. What were some of those things that you felt, if you can speak about, because of your race, you felt like it was like something's not right?
I felt like they scrutinized me a lot more than some of my
Mm,
parts. There weren't a lot of us in the class. We started with 35 and I think we graduated 32. So it wasn't a huge class, but it was one black man, one black woman. And I think there might have been 8 women in that class. And I definitely was treated differently than the others. They were a lot harder on me when it came to the physical aspect of it. They couldn't come at me when it came to the academic part of it because I'm intelligent. Like I didn't have issues with the testing or the academic aspect of it, but the physical and then just the rest of the day to day, like in the academy, we're always wrong. Even when we're right, we're wrong.
right.
But for me, it was like above and beyond. So I remember specifically. So in my first academy for corrections, I developed asthma. I
Oh
had,
wow.
as an adult, I had my first asthma attack on the PT field, like
Oh
while we were working.
wow.
And so thankfully, it was like a Friday. So Saturday, I got cleared by my doctor and was able to return to the academy. But fast forward to my second academy, the physical aspect of it was a lot harder for me than it was the first time because now I have asthma where I didn't have it before. And so I
That's interesting.
I taught myself how to run through an asthma attack. Like we'd be running for miles and miles and miles. I'd be having an asthma attack. I taught myself how to push through because I was like, I'm not quitting. I'm not getting kicked out of this academy. And so the physical part was a lot harder for me. And I remember one specific day, PT was grueling, the physical part of it, but I pushed through. I had an asthma attack in the middle of it. I pushed through. And so one of the instructors at the end of our PT session came up to me. He's like, yo, I saw you pushing through. Like you did your thing. Like I'm proud of you. You did your thing.
And you didn't have your pump, did you?
I had my pump, but
Okay.
another instructor was like, nah, she didn't fucking do anything. She was fucking sandbagging. She fuck her, because this is when they could talk to us like this in the academy. Fuck her. She didn't do anything. She was fucking sandbagging. She doesn't get any kudos for that. Fuck her. Go get in line. And like yelled at me to go get in line. That shit pissed me off so much because I'm like, yo, I am busting my behind out here. And like, again, you're always wrong in the academy. But this specific day, I was like, I ain't with it today. But I maintained my academy bearing. I didn't say anything to him, even though I
Because I
wanted
would have been like, nigga, you got me fucked up.
to. That's what was going on in my head.
I would have gotten that nigga face.
But you got to maintain your academy
I
bearing,
know you're right.
or I get kicked out. So
Right. And you came this far not to come this far.
exactly. So at the end of the day, when we're getting ready to leave, he's giving us our, summary of the day, our marching orders for that night, whatever homework we're gonna have. And we're supposed to look at him. Like we're supposed to sit straight up, looking at him. And I'm looking, but I'm not looking at him. I'm kind of looking next to him. Like I'm not giving him the eye contact that he wants.
Mm.
and he goes off like crash out. That's what they say now, crash out. He crashed out in the podium he was standing at. He was like, "You don't fucking treat me this way. You fucking look at me when I'm talking to you." And he picked up the podium and like flung it, like tried to throw it at me. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him and I have like, the black girl resting bitch face.
Yeah.
I don't want to say black girl, but the resting bitch face. You know what I'm talking about. And
Yeah. Like, nigga, I wish you would.
because at this point, I'm not saying anything, but I'm looking like, I dare you. I dare you. Because in my mind, I'm like, I will own this entire academy. I will own this entire state. I promise you, I will sue the shit out of all of y'all. If you put your hands on me, I promise you, I will sue all of y'all. Like, this is what my face is saying. And I think he caught it because he calmed down and he walked out. And somebody else came in and dismissed us for the day. But I didn't forget that. There was nobody else in that class who he had ever treated that way. Even the biggest fuck ups of the class, even those who could never get it together, he had never, ever, ever treated any of them that way. So far to the point where he damn near hits them with a podium.
Now, I don't want to play the game. Guess what race that is?
You already know. You already,
I don't want to ask the question.
you already know. But that was just one of, you know,
But why do you think he had a personal vendetta against you? Like, and did he? I know he didn't treat the black man like that,
they mess with him too.
but not to a point where they threw a podium at him.
No, not they didn't throw a podium at him, but
Right.
they definitely messed with him too. I mean, I can say that during that police academy, they messed with the two of us so much that I was like, I'm not quitting. I will never quit. But once I'm done, I'm suing them. I was looking
Yeah.
at the rules and regulations of the academy. I was like, because something is off. This is like the treatment between us and the other recruits is so disparaging. Like, nah, nah.
You know what's so crazy? I just had an aha moment because being that you're a woman, he wanted to evoke fear in you because he's a man and probably with your partner, he probably wanted to emasculate him and fuck with him mentally.
That could definitely be it. They
Right.
probably onto something, but I wasn't with it. I was like, nah. And I think by the end of the academy class, it got to the point, and this is something that I experienced throughout my career. I think they got to the point where they were like, okay, we are not instilling fear in her. We can't beat her. Maybe we should join her because of the way that I presented, because I was intelligent, because I spoke a certain way,
You were calm too.
because I carried myself a certain way, because of I think that they felt like I was palatable, so I could be the black face, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So not realizing that just because I speak a certain way, just because I'm intelligent, just because I carry myself a certain way doesn't mean that I am not like fist in the air, like power to the people, because I am.
Yeah.
Them, it was like, okay, we can't beat her. Let's join her. Let's make her, kind of like the face.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to my career, it was the same thing. Like I had supervisors who tried to mess with me in the beginning, and I would make it clear, like, I'm not that person that you can get that off on. You're not going to treat me a certain way. You're not going to instill fear in me. You're not going to attempt to write me up for nonsense so that you can get stuff on my jacket. So that fast forward, I can't go to specialized units and I can't get
Mm.
like it's very strategic in how they do certain things. And I recognized they were trying to do it, and I nipped it in the bud early. It was just like, so one of the things that they always taught us is that our pen is one of our most mighty weapons in policing. Like if it's not on paper, it didn't happen,
That's
right? So
mm-hmm.
for me, I remembered that and I write well. Again, I'm intelligent. So, and I'm not going to say that, I'm just going to say I'm probably more intelligent than a lot of my colleagues.
Right.
I'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah.
But especially going into this particular department and supervisors who would try to write me up for nonsense, and I would confront them on in the moment like, okay, the captain is telling you to write me up for this nonsense, but you know it's nonsense, I know it's nonsense,
Right.
what you feel you need to do, but I'm gonna sue you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not telling you what to do because you are my supervisor, you're my sergeant. I'm not here to tell you what to do.
Right. But play with something else that's safe because I ain't the one.
Safe to do, right? But they would try to do that. And when they saw it wasn't working and they saw how I interacted with the community, how people gravitated towards me,
Hmm.
how people enjoyed me and how I did my job, how I could make people do what they were supposed to do, I could de-escalate. Like I was good at my job. It transitioned to, oh, shit, let's use her,
Yeah,
right? And in that, I took advantage of that.
as you should.
They were using me, I used them back. Every training that I asked to go to, it was granted, right? So I
Yeah.
stacked my resume, opportunities that came to me. I stacked my resume. I had the opportunity to be on loan to a task force, like a federal task force, again, to
Hmm.
stack my resume, like specialized units. So it helped me for, so they started out not liking me, and then it was the we can't beat her, so let's join her. And then they did. And then the table switched when they asked me to do things I wasn't supposed to do. And when I said no, then the table switched and it was now target her
Yeah.
because I had used that time to stack my resume.
Hmm.
It helped me and that time to build my network and people to see my work product, how I am, what my true character is, not what these people were trying to say that I was.
Right.
It built such a network that it was helpful for me to leave and go somewhere where I was more appreciated and valued.
Yeah. Listen, y'all, when I tell you our guest, you are definitely strategic because she be outside. And even when I was I was on your Instagram page and I was like, wait, I need to ask her to come on the show because I can tell how the different speaking engagements you have done, the different volunteer opportunities you've been a part of. Like you can tell through the pictures how people gravitate towards you and how they really respect you. And I think that's a great thing to have, especially with you being a Black woman and the relationship between Black people and police. And I think you do a really good job with repairing it.
Thank you.
That's why I was
Thank
like, I got to have you on the show because, yeah. And just to know what you've been through up until now is like, that is crazy.
that's 1% of what
Right.
career has been. But it's, I appreciate you saying that because I truly do believe that my journey to this profession was all God. Again, I
Absolutely.
wanting to be a cop. I had no desire to be a cop, but the just the way that my life happened, it led me to it. And I do believe that I am walking in my purpose. I'm supposed to be here. I would not be as passionate about it as I am
Yeah.
if I wasn't supposed to be here. Like I am extremely committed to making sure that this job is done the right way on my watch, right?
Yeah.
I'm a person, I truly believe in procedural justice. Like I'm not going to,
Procedural justice.
yeah, it's like it doesn't mean that I'm not holding people accountable when they do
Hmm.
something, right? I'm still doing my job, but I'm making sure that it's done fair. I'm making sure that it's done equitably. Like
Right.
people aren't going to be railroaded on my watch. I'm not going to let that happen. Or when victims who look like us come in and they feel like they're being re-victimized by the system and they're being re-victimized by people who are supposed to be in their corner but don't understand them. They don't look like them. They don't understand the way that they speak. They don't understand the way that they were raised. They don't understand culture, right? And then I come in with a level of cultural competency that the people around them before did not have, and I'm able
Yeah.
make these people feel seen and heard and valued and supported and appreciated and supported. And like
Yeah.
that's important to me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And just making sure that the community knows that there is somebody on this side of the fence or the coin or whatever
That's
you
doing things the right way.
actually has their best interest at heart.
And who cares? Right.
I truly do. Like even when I was in uniform, people knew like again, she cool, but she gonna do her job.
Hmm.
She's cool. Like when I can use discretion, I absolutely will. But in moments that I can't, I can't. But even
Yeah.
when I can't, it's going to be fair to you. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be treated wrong. You're not going to have hands put on you unnecessarily. Now, am I saying that I've never had to lay hands on anybody? No, it comes with the job. There have been people who tried to hurt me or people who I was trying to arrest who were resisting, where yes, I did have to get them under control.
I know you can be a bitch down.
Listen,
She's trying to be humble, y'all.
I'll say this, People tend to
Underestimate.
me
Yep.
because they see me and I don't present like a cop. If I
Yeah.
didn't tell people that I'm a cop, 9 times out of 10, they would not think.
I'm telling y'all, she a baddie. She's small
I
and petite.
hair done, nails done, everything did.
Hair, listen, every time I see her, y'all, I'm talking about beat to the gods. Okay. Face be laid. No, face be beat, hair be laid, like outfits be snatched. I'm like, listen, if people only knew, because I can tell you how you give it up.
Listen, and I tell my mentees because I do a lot of mentorship. I tell them, I'm like, you don't have to lose your femininity to do this job. You can't prance around like a princess, but you
Right.
don't have to try to assimilate to this hardened, masculine, persona if that's not who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because I come hair done, nails done, everything did, people think I don't have hands. And I'm like, don't let the smooth taste fool you. I'm like, my motto is like, I ain't a killer, but don't push me. I'm
Right.
never going to start anything, but if you try to put your hands on me and hurt me, you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to arrest someone, but you saw yourself in them?
That's a good question. Not necessarily saw myself in them in
Like
like
maybe you want to give them a second chance or help them out?
oh, that happens all the time. Like so not necessarily see myself in them, but I see their story.
Yeah,
I'm the type of person where I recognize that everyone has a story.
absolutely.
And everyone's story is what led them to this exact moment that we're in and what caused them to do whatever it is that they did. And I recognize the trauma that people have experienced that lead them to do certain things. And there are times where I do feel like people do deserve a second chance. But I also recognize that sometimes in someone being arrested, it is for their good because that's that moment in their life where they pivot
Yeah,
doing and being what they were to being the best version of themselves. This is where
right.
they get the help, or that maybe it's a slap on the wrist that they get, but now they're in a program that helps them to be better. You know what I mean? And they're able to go back and speak to other people who are troubled, who are going down the wrong path, and they're able to help them. Like I definitely recognize that. I've had people run up to me. I had a girl, she ran up to me back in the day when I shopped at Walmart because I definitely don't anymore. I stopped shopping at Walmart way before the nonsense, but I definitely
Right.
shop now. But she ran up to me calling my name and I looked because I'm like, I don't know if she's friend or foe.
Yeah,
Because even though I'm not an asshole cop, that doesn't mean that people don't like me just because I'm a cop.
yeah. That's a fact.
She's running up on me and I'm looking at her and I'm like, yeah, how can I help you? And she's like, no, 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 it's nothing bad, but you arrested me 3 years ago.
Girl, we at Walmart. I don't want to hear this shit.
But no, but I appreciate it because she's like,
Yeah.
you arrested me 3 years ago. And you remember I was pregnant and you took me to the hospital and you talked to me. And girl, she found out she was having twins
Oh,
listen, it's a whole story. But I remember looking at the thing, I was like, oh, that looked like two heartbeats. But I didn't say anything, and come to find out, it was twins. But I had arrested her. She was going to jail for quite some time, and she was pregnant, and she had her babies in jail. But she's talking to me now about getting out and getting custody of her kids back, and she's working and she's clean, and she's like doing
mm.
what she needs to do. And she was like, I just want to thank you for being kind to me, for treating me like a person. You weren't mean. Everyone's mean to me. You weren't like that with
Because
me.
could you imagine she would have came across the wrong cop?
Yeah, yeah. And like
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, again, I'm committed to making sure this job is done the right way on my watch. You don't have to be an asshole to do this job. You
yeah,
really don't. Now, do I have moments where I have to pull the asshole out every now and then? Yes, for the Joker who is fighting me. Yes.
yeah,
The Joker who's trying to hurt me. Yes, but day to day, interaction to interaction, you don't have to be an asshole. Like I enjoy when someone has an interaction with me and I have them leave me thinking a little bit more highly of cops.
yeah,
Like they see, you know what, maybe not all of them are the same. And on the opposite end with my colleague. Like
Mm-hmm.
I operate in this space where I'm like, I want to make sure that the people who look like me recognize that everyone who wears a badge like me isn't the same. And then I also operate from, I want to make sure that everyone who wears a badge like me understands that everyone who looks like me is not the same. Right.
All skin folk and kinfolk, child.
No, but I sit at this intersection of
Mm-hmm.
being black and blue, as I call it.
Yeah.
So I have the opportunity to have a positive influence on both sides of the coin. So I want to make sure that I do that as much as I can.
Have you ever been physically hurt on the job?
Like not really bad, but yeah, I remember trying to arrest someone and him throwing me into a brick wall. And when brick walls are not sheetrock, they do not give at all.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I was hurt that day. I was sore for about a week after that one. Yeah. Now, thankfully, I didn't have any permanent damage, like I didn't break anything or pull
Thank
anything.
God.
But that brick wall, that hurt. That
Oh,
hurt.
wow.
That hurt.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Okay, so what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about police officers? Because I
Um,
think that in situations like this, I think that a lot of times the bad outweigh the good.
you do. I would say a big misconception that people have about police officers is that the good cops don't tell on the bad cops. That's what
Mm,
I, I hear. There are no good cops because the good cops don't tell on the
that's
bad
a
cops.
good one.
And that's not true, right? It's not true. And it's also, I also take it a step further to say that there are a lot of good cops who do speak out when someone is doing something that they're not supposed to do. My call to action to the community, to those who say there aren't any good cops because they don't tell on the bad cops, is when those good cops do tell on the bad cops, show up for them.
Mm-hmm.
And we are targeted by our departments for telling on the bad cops,
Mm-hmm.
are suspended, and we lose our jobs, and we can't pay our bills, and we're depressed, and we're going through divorces, et cetera, et cetera. The same people who scream from the mountaintops that there are no good cops because they don't tell on the bad cops, when the good cops show up and do what we're supposed to do and we're targeted,
Right.
the same people aren't there to support us. There aren't any GoFundMe's, there aren't any protests for us.
Mm,
Like, and so now we've done what we're supposed to do, and we did it because we're supposed to do it, but now we're left on an island by ourselves. And everyone else who screamed for us to do our job the way we're supposed to do
where
it,
y'all at?
go on about their lives.
Right.
Now we're here trying to figure it out. So to me, that like there's this misconception that there aren't any good cops. There are a lot of us out here who are really, really doing this job the right way. My call to action to the community is to identify those of us who are and show up for us.
So do
Support.
you think it's a slap in the face when the community be like, we need police reform or let's defund the police?
Oh,
Like,
no, I don't think it's a slap in the face. Do I like the term defund the police? No, because
right.
that I think it's too broad. If we're going to talk about doing an audit to see where all the funds that are going in a police budget and making sure that they're being allocated appropriately, that I'm 1000% cool with.
Right.
But defund the police, the community can't ask for more training for police and simultaneously say defund the police.
Right.
Training costs money, right?
Yeah.
Community can't say that, we need crime taken care of and simultaneously say defund the police because then there are less officers on the street to take care of that crime. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's too far opposite ends of the spectrum. I think there's more of um, it's a more nuanced conversation that
Right.
had. But I don't have any problem with police reform. I am an advocate for police reform. There are a lot of things that are done that could be done differently, could stand to be done differently. I recognize that and I'm here for it, right? But I do think that it's important for those who are advocating for police reform to talk to us, officers who actually understand and want to better our communities and the profession so that they can have an understanding of what police reform could look like realistically in a way that is going to work for everyone. And I say that because sometimes I hear policies that are so far right that I'm like, nah, because you're marginalizing my community and I'm not here for that.
Right,
Right.
right, right,
I hear policies that are so far less. I'm like, okay, now you're trying to get me killed. And while I'm doing my job, because you're not allowing me to actually do my job.
right.
So there has to be a more nuanced conversation, and there can be, but there's a lot of reform that needs to be done. There's overhaul that needs to be done. I'm one of the people who believe that this system, um, I don't think it's broken. I think it's working exactly how it was intended to work, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't intended to have our best interest at
that's
heart.
a fact.
But I also don't agree with people who don't believe that there should be any police at all because like there are people who are upset with any of us being in the system. Like people who think I'm a bad guy. It doesn't matter how good-hearted I am. You're a part of the system, so you're bad. And I look at it like this.
Mm.
Why do you not want someone in this system who has your best
I
interest?
literally was just about to say that we need more people like you in the system to advocate for people like me.
Why would you not want someone
Right.
make sure that the job is done the right way because there are a lot of doctors who don't do what they're supposed to do, but you still want Black doctors, right? There are a lot of teachers who don't do what they're supposed to do, but you still want
I
teachers,
mean,
right?
representation matters.
It matters. And we need it all throughout the criminal justice system. We need it in
Absolutely.
parole, we need it in probation, we need it in officers, we need it in prosecutors, we need it in public defenders, we need it in judges, we need it everywhere. And every
From
system,
entry level all the way up to top rank.
education system, health system, criminal justice system, we need advocates and allies within every system. So,
Absolutely.
you know, they single out policing and say that those of us who are doing the job right are still bad because we're a part of the system. I'm just like, it doesn't make sense to me because my presence de-escalates the situation. My presence is going to ensure that you don't get your behind kicked unjustly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, do you think that trust between police and the Black community can ever be fully restored?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Don't. I think that the needle has been moved some, but there's still a long way to go.
yeah.
I think that unfortunately, the times that we're in right now, we're going to see a lot more of a regression. And I think that that's because people are really becoming emboldened right now
Mm-hmm.
during these current times in this current federal administration. And I don't know what that is going to look like for policing in the event that, like, so there's a conversation about officers potentially having full immunity, right? That
Mm,
to me, that would be problematic. And I'm
that's
saying
scary.
this as an officer. I don't think that officers should have full immunity. There are laws and guidelines that we should have to abide by as well. And
Absolutely. Nobody is above the law.
nobody is above it. No one should be above it.
Absolutely.
So for me, I don't think,
Not even the president.
girl, that's a whole no, I don't think that we should have full immunity and not for nothing for someone who does this job and is doing it the right way. What do you need full immunity for?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
even if you have to unfortunately discharge your firearm for some reason, if you're doing it because you had no choice, if it was the last resort, if someone was shooting at you or shooting at someone else or whatever it might be, if you did your job the way that you're supposed to do it,
Hmm.
investigation will clear you. So what do you need full immunity for?
Yeah.
Because you did your job the way it was supposed to be done. You didn't step outside of the bounds. So why do you need full immunity?
As an officer, when you see videos of police brutality and they go viral, what's your first reaction?
Here we go again.
Mm.
Here we go again. And I have gotten to the point where, for the most part, I can't watch the videos anymore.
Oh, I can't watch the videos.
I used to watch the videos, and people would send the videos to me, and I would kind of dissect them from an officer perspective. People
Mm.
like, what do you think about this? And I would look at it and, from an officer perspective, with all of the facts that I actually would have at that time, I would say, based on what I see here and what I know, yes, this was justified, or nah, this wasn't okay. Right. And sometimes what I say, the person agrees with, and sometimes what I say, they don't. Like if I say it's justified, and they're like, how could you say that? And then I walk them through the incident and what happened. And I'm like, I would have done the same thing.
Mm,
And I'm like, you're looking at it from a broad perspective, and I understand from your position as a layperson why it's problematic for you. And I get it. Anyone losing their life or being shot any at all is not good.
you right.
I'm like, but from the eyes of an officer, I want to go home at the end of the night. In every
Just
interaction
like you do. Right.
you do. And I'm like, I need you to humanize this officer, right? You're upset because you see a white boy who did this. And I'm telling you, as this Black woman officer, I would have done the exact same thing. And this is why. And I break it down. And once I break it down, they're like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. And I'm like, I get it. And I don't expect you to because you don't do this job.
Right.
Right. But there are certain things that happen. So, like, if I'm looking for someone, like, there have been situations where officers might have gone into a house looking for someone and there's a child in the house,
Mm-hmm.
a 8-year-old. Officers' guns are drawn while they're looking for this person. The community might be upset with the fact that officers have guns drawn and there's an 8-year-old there.
Right.
And I get that as a community member. But on the law enforcement side, this person that we're looking for is one of a homicide, is known to have weapons, has
Mm-hmm.
stated that they don't want to go back to jail, and will likely do anything that they can to not go back to jail. So while I am looking for them,
Including putting an 8-year-old child in danger.
thank you, right?
Yeah.
So while I'm looking for them, yes, my gun is going to be drawn. Is it going to be drawn at that 8-year-old? Absolutely not. Is the house going to be cleared and make sure that that child is out of harm's way? Absolutely, right? But can I prevent that child being traumatized from the initial interaction from us arriving? I
Mm-hmm.
can't prevent that. But
Right.
I counter with that community member. I'm like, but you're the one harboring a fugitive, and you
Mm.
had this 8-year-old in the house. So
Right.
did I put that child in danger or did you put that child in danger?
Mm.
Like, and so, but then I take it a step further and I'm like, but because I'm here, I'm going to do everything in my power to mitigate the trauma that comes to that child. I'm
Right.
going to do everything in my power to kind of like get them out and talk to them after the fact and help them to make them to feel better because I'll go above and beyond, but every cop is not going to do that. But I'm like, don't be mad at me for doing my job when you're harboring the fugitive.
Mm.
And so it's just like moments like that where it's like I have to have these hard conversations with members of the community, but I have those hard conversations with my colleagues too. Like there have been times where I've stepped in where my colleague was about to do something that they weren't supposed to do, and I stepped in and I shut it down. That's
Right.
always been me. But you don't see those videos happening all the time because it doesn't escalate. Because us good cops jump in and intervene, it doesn't become a thing. So people don't ever know about it. Right?
Right.
It's when something goes bad and goes left and escalates, that's where we see those videos go viral. But when one of us steps in, that's not salacious, right? That's not sexy, right? That's not
Yeah.
something that people want to go viral, or it's not even captured because nothing happened.
And people have a very unhealthy relationship with trauma porn.
Absolutely. Dysfunction and trauma is like people just they thrive off of it.
They really do. They
So
really do.
there's so many of us out here who are doing good work, but we're not highlighted. And so
Right.
I guess going back to your question about the misconception, that's the misconception. There are so many of us out here who are really, really, really doing the work to bridge the community, but bridge the gap between police and the Black community and other marginalized communities. There are a lot of us out here doing this job the right way. And so to your listeners, I urge them to identify those officers in their communities and really show them some support because we need it. It's hard. We
Yeah.
belong to two communities where we're police officers and most of our colleagues don't understand us and don't really want us there. And then we belong to the Black community and there are members of the Black community who don't understand us and don't
Listen, you too black for blue and too blue for black.
really. And that's literally what I say. Like
Yeah, that's a real thing.
I'm too Black to be fully blue and I'm too blue to be fully Black.
So
Right.
when
And
you see, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, belonging to two worlds that don't particularly care for one another all the time, and all you want to do is make both of them better, but you're not actually accepted fully in either of them.
Yeah. I can only imagine how difficult that is for you to navigate between both worlds because those worlds have always
Clashed.
but yeah, that's a perfect word. So when you see these videos again going viral as a black woman, how does that hit differently?
It there's a compounded layer of trauma that I experienced watching those videos. So like when George Floyd was murdered, I only
Hmm.
I watched the full video, but I only watched it once.
Same.
I hyperventilated, snotting, like bawled, crying.
Mm,
And it was so hurtful to me that one of my colleagues could do that to another person, let alone someone who looks like me. He could have been my brother. He could have been my uncle. He could have been my cousin.
yeah, daddy.
And to see that, it was
Yeah.
just, it hurt me so much. And it's like I felt the same anger that the Black community felt. And then it was compounded by the fact that I do this job, right? And I actually felt a bit of guilt, even though I know that
Mm,
all, but like I said earlier, I have intervened so many times throughout my career. All I kept thinking, like, if I was there, that would not have happened. If I was there, that shit would not have happened. If I was there, I can say with 100% certainty, George Floyd would not have died that day.
mm,
I can say with 100% certainty, if I was there in New York, Eric Garner would not have died that day. Like,
hmm.
because I step in. That's who I am. That's how I am. And so it hit different. And then when the protests came, it was challenging because now being a cop, I have to navigate these protests and the community that I work so hard for within this profession, making sure that things are done the right way, are now attacking me and calling me everything but a child of God because of what I do
Yeah.
and not taking into consideration how I do it. Like
Yeah.
I, Derek Chauvin, the guy
Right.
who killed George Floyd, like I'm not him. I don't
Yeah.
operate like him, but because of him, I am being mistreated by people who I work so hard for.
Right.
So it was a challenging time. It really, really, really was. And I know everybody can't receive that. There are some people who are like, well, yeah, you signed up for that job and that it just is what it is. And like, I hear you, but at your job, when you're mistreated, do you think, oh, well, I signed up for this job, so being mistreated is cool? No, right? Like, especially when I am truly doing the work to make sure it's done the right way on my watch. Like I can't say that enough. Not everybody in this job shows up that way. Not everyone
Right.
like us in this job shows up this way. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that I am the end all be all. I am not perfect. I make mistakes just like everybody else, right? But I truly put my best foot forward as much as I can to do this job the right way. So
Yeah.
be mistreated by the profession and the colleagues who don't want me there,
Right.
be mistreated by the community that I work so hard for. It's rough.
Listen, I can feel your emotions because I can't even imagine the weight of that type of guilt that you experience, especially during those times of like high emotion, high tension, like, and to a point where it makes you feel like you got to pick between your career and your community.
I
Like
almost quit.
that's a lot.
I almost quit. I almost quit.
Mm,
That summer, when George Floyd was murdered, 2020, I almost quit. I was like, why am I doing this for?
right.
Because one of the things that always kept me driven was being able to be one of those officers who could bridge that gap. And I'm like, well, dag, if I'm getting it from the profession and then I'm getting it from the community, what am I here for?
Like, what's the point? Right.
Why am I stressing myself out? Why am I putting my life in danger every day to go do this job for people who hate me because I do this job? Why am
Mm,
I doing this? And so I did. I almost quit. It yeah, your girl
Yeah.
was out of here.
So what
Um,
kept you going?
I got in therapy.
Wow, let's segue into my next topic. Like, how has this impacted your mental health?
Got in therapy. I had to.
Mm,
I had to talk to somebody. It was I mean, because it was the middle of COVID. So dealing with that and being an officer during COVID, that's trauma in and of itself. And then George Floyd being murdered and dealing with that on top of that. And then other personal things I had going on in my life. Like it was heavy for me at that time. And I was like, I need to talk to somebody. And so I got into therapy and it was the best thing I ever could have done for myself.
yeah. Do you believe enough is being done to protect the mental health of officers?
No, I think that we're talking about it more now.
Absolutely.
And there are programs for that. But I do feel like the programs are performative because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, when we really need support, I don't feel like we always get it
Right.
as officers. And it's to me, a mental health is really important. It's really important for officers to be okay because when officers are not okay, then they project whatever it is that they're going through
Oh,
on
absolutely.
they're serving, right? So to me, when you have more mentally healthy officers, you have less negative interactions with the community. So
Yeah.
whether the officer is white, black, blue, brown, purple, that officer being healthy mentally is important to me. Because
Yeah.
that officer, white, black, blue, brown, purple, is still going to interact with the community and they need to be okay. Because
Yeah.
just like I said, everyone has a story, right? So everyone in the community has a story, but every officer has a story too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And experiences that got them to where they are and why they show up the way that they show up. So them actually speaking to someone and working on whatever their traumas are. Because remember, as officers, we see the worst of the worst, right? And that's something that I think people forget. Like everybody else runs away from danger, we run towards it.
Yeah.
We experience trauma way more than the average person does. And so that really messes with our minds. And we don't have the opportunity to come down from that trauma because it literally takes time for the brain to decompress
Yeah.
the situation. But we don't have enough time to decompress because we're back in the next shift,
Yeah.
experience something else. And then we decompress a little bit, but then we're back in the next shift. Right. And so we're not taking care of ourselves as officers. We can't really take care of the community the way that they need to be taken care of.
And I can only imagine how desensitized you are to a lot of things because it's always probably like nonstop sometimes.
So it's interesting because I am desensitized to a lot of things. Like at one point, I was in special victims unit, so I'm dealing with
Let me
like,
find out you was on Law and Order, child, with my
man,
girl Olivia.
listen, I wanted to be Olivia Benson. And at one point in my career, I was, right? And so I'm dealing with those types of crimes, and I had to desensitize myself to a certain extent so that I'm not internalizing that stuff. But I also, and this is something that I would tell my officers because at my department when I first went to policing, I did make rank, so I was a sergeant, and I would tell my officers, yes, you have to desensitize yourself to a certain extent so that you don't internalize everything, but you also have to maintain a certain level of empathy to remember that just because this is your job and you deal with this stuff every day, this is this person's life. This
Yeah.
could be the worst day of their life, the worst thing that they've ever experienced. So you,
Hmm.
as an officer, need to show up with that in mind and not compound the trauma unnecessarily because of how you show up. But even in my being desensitized to a lot of things, I'm actually hypersensitive to a lot of things too. Like I don't watch violent shows, I don't watch violent movies
Mm,
because my nervous system it doesn't respond to it well. Like I'm already in a profession that where I'm dealing with violence or I'm seeing violence or I'm investigating violence. I don't want to see it in my off time.
yeah. Damn. So you don't be watching Law and Order and Organized Crime?
Law and Order isn't like it's minimally violent.
Because that's my shit.
SVU is my like I do love SVU, but like I used to watch Power. I can't watch it anymore.
Mm,
So violent. Right? I used to like movies and stuff. I can't watch it. So like I'm watching
wow.
Game of Thrones. People like you don't watch Game of... No, it's too violent. For me personally, I don't want to watch it
And
because
because you experience it every day.
I don't like the way it affects my nervous system. So I'm like, no, it's like if somebody were to say like, what do you watch? I want the feel good. I want the rom-com.
I
I
love
want
a good rom-com.
love a good rom-com. Like I want something that's lighthearted. Like I just started watching A Different World again because it's on Netflix. Like I want
Yes.
something like stuff like that. If it's not like that, you can keep it. I don't even watch like love and hip hop, basketball wise. Like I don't watch any of that anymore. It's so dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So do you think that officers should go through regular mental health evaluations?
yes, we get screened to get on the job, but I do think that it's important for us to make sure that we're taking care of our mental health. Because when I first get on the job, I haven't responded to like, especially like someone like NYPD, right? When that officer first gets on the job, that officer hasn't experienced all the trauma that they're going to experience over their career.
Yeah.
But 5 years in, when they've responded to fatal car accidents and baby deaths and been in high-speed chases themselves and, SVU and arson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera,
Right.
the way that their mental state was when they started the job is not what their mental state is later on, right? And it's not at any fault of the officer, but it's just important to really put measures in place to make sure that we as officers are okay. More
Yeah.
in place.
Yeah, we almost finished, but I remember when everything that was going on with George Floyd and Sandra Bland and just so many Black people that was losing their hands to police. And I remember going to the store one time and I had to walk past these police officer. And I've never been scared of police because I know so many people growing up, especially in my family, who are in law enforcement. So I never had that type of relationship with police, but I felt nervous and scared. And I remember I was almost having an anxiety attack when I was walking past them. And I had to get myself together. And I think one of the Black cops, he saw me and he was like, "You good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good, I'm good." And then I came back to reality. So I say that to say, what would you say to a young Black boy or a girl who's afraid of the police, but they want to be a police officer one day or work in law enforcement?
Yeah, I would say when you see a police officer, say hi.
Mm-hmm.
Say hi. Start the interaction, right? A lot of the community feels the same way that you felt walking past those officers. Like,
Right.
shoot, if when I'm pulled over, my anxiety goes up. Like this
Right.
Dead ass. Like how you probably feel when you're pulled over and your heart starts pitter patter. Same thing happens to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my 18th year, but the only way that we are going to bridge the gap is to actually get to know and understand each other better.
Absolutely.
So we can't understand each other if we don't ever interact, if we don't ever communicate.
Yeah.
I tell members of the community, when you see an officer, say hi,
Mm-hmm.
because that officer feels the tension just like you feel the tension. And
Mm-hmm.
they may not want to say anything to you for fear of you rejecting them or it turning into a negative interaction when it didn't have to. So if you open up the door to have a positive interaction, they're going to be more receptive. And I say the same thing on the opposite end,
Mm-hmm.
right? To my colleagues, I'm like, when you see people, just say hello.
Yeah.
Just say hi. And I'm like, no, you're not always going to get a positive response, but sometimes you will. And you probably will get a positive response more times than not.
Mm-hmm.
Just say hi. Right. And I try to do that when I'm out because, again, I don't look like a cop. Right. So when I'm
Mm-hmm.
out, see officers, how y'all doing? Stay safe. Because if my interaction as a Black woman who they don't know as a cop can be positive and I can put that little implant in their head, okay, this Black woman is positive, then hopefully that can change that one interaction can change
Yeah.
it a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we can do is like plant the mustard seed, right? So
Yeah.
we all have to do better. So I tell people, say hi. How's your day going?
Mm-hmm.
Start a conversation. And I tell people get to know the officers who police in their communities. And as a kid who wants to be an officer, say hi and ask them about being an officer. Tell them
Right.
to be an officer. Ask them about the job. Ask them about the academy. Ask them things because you never you might get a mentor out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I say just I know that we're all walking on eggshells to a certain extent when it comes to each other, each community, but I just think if we just take a moment to see each other as human
Yeah.
and have human interactions,
Mm-mm.
I think that will go a lot further.
You know what? God bless you, sis, because I can only imagine the amount of work you had to do to keep your heart soft.
Girl, it's it's rough. It is rough, but it's like I have moments where
Because even passion can harden you sometimes.
it can, but I have those moments where I have those human interactions, and it
Yeah.
reminds me why I do this job. And the days where I'm tired and I'm like, yo, I'm ready to retire, and
Hmm.
really good interaction, or I'll have a case where I'm able to show up for someone and they feel seen, heard, like a victim who feels seen, heard, valued, or a case where it's a mistaken identity and I'm the person who figures out that we got the wrong person. Well, not we, but they got
Right. Because I ain't taking it. I
the
don't want no credit for that.
I'm not the one who charged and arrested them, to be clear. I'm the one who's investigating it after the fact. And I saw
Right.
that they
I ain't putting my name on that
arrested
part.
because there's been no mistaken identities on my watch. But I recognize that they arrested the wrong person. And I'm able to articulate that and show that, and that person gets those charges dropped.
Mm,
Like stuff like that. It's like I literally look up and I'm like, all right, God, you for reminding me why I'm still here. Because you
mm.
know I needed that because I was ready to be out.
Yeah. How many more years you got?
7.5. Countdown.
It's gonna go by fast.
I pray so. I mean, the first 17 and a half have gone by really fast.
Yeah. And you still looking like you in your 20s, child.
Look, this gray hair, you know. But it's
Listen.
funny you say that because I used to be the youngest person in the room, and now I'm one of the veterans. I'm one of the older
Yeah.
heads, and it's wild to come to that, you know.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But I'm thankful. I'm blessed, and I'm as challenging as it can be. I'm happy to do this job.
So when it's time to hang up the badge, how do you want to be remembered?
That's a great question.
I gotta get my Oprah on every now and then.
Man, I love
Okay.
it. I want to be remembered as the person who was, again, very passionate about making sure that this job was done the right way on my watch. I want to be known as the person who led with empathy and compassion. I want
Hmm.
the person who is remembered as someone who invested in the next generation of law enforcement, making sure that they're being taught and trained the right way and how to treat people.
Hmm.
I want to be remembered as someone who practiced what I preached,
Absolutely.
who
Absolutely.
operated in the way that I am speaking right now. I want to be the person who is remembered as someone who didn't only talk that talk, but walked it as well.
Hmm. And last but not least, one more question. What's your advice for people to stay safe and calm during police interactions?
People are not going to like this.
Hmm.
Do what you're told to do in that moment. Your job in that moment is not to litigate whether you're right or wrong. Your job is not to convince the officer that you are whatever. Your job is to get through the interaction safely, right? So if they tell you to do something, do it.
Hmm.
If you feel like they are not treating you properly or you did not do what they're accusing you of doing, take certain mental notes. Take note of what department it is. Take note of the name of the officer. Take note of the badge number. Remember
Hmm.
where, let's say it's a traffic stop, remember where you were stopped,
Hmm.
you were around, what day it was, what time of day it was, what the officer said to you, what the interaction was, so that if you feel like you do need to make a report, you have all of the information that someone would need to investigate.
Right.
But at that moment in the middle of it, it's not the time to bark up or like get base. Like it's not the time, because at the end of the day, that officer has way more authority than you.
Yeah.
And that officer has the power to take your freedom and or life.
Yeah.
It's important that you remember that and not escalate a situation unnecessarily. And so and a lot of people don't want to hear when someone says, "Well, you should have done what you were told to do." I get it. Trust me. Trust me, I get it. But I need you to get through the interaction safely.
Hmm.
And so in order to do that, I need you to do what you were told to do, and we will figure the rest out later.
Right.
You're not here, or if you're hurt, that's not helping you,
Yeah.
right? So get through it safely, and then we could talk about the rest later and navigate whatever it is that you need to do later.
Yeah.
Get through it safely.
You know what, sis? I know you probably heard this 1,000 times, but I really do appreciate what you do for our community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Your years are definitely not in vain. So I appreciate you. I think that we need more people like you, especially in your field, to be more vocal and, to help foster this relationship or repair this relationship so we can have more conversations like this so we all can go home safely. So I appreciate you, sis. I really do.
Thank
This was
you.
an excellent conversation.
This was good. I needed this. And this is one of those moments where I'm actually talking about it out loud. And it's one of those moments like, it's all right. Thank you, God, for reminding me why I do this job. So thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you listening to my story, you caring about my story. You know, um, it makes it a little bit easier to do this job. So thank you.
Of course, of course. And to the listeners, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please make sure to email me at hello@thephcpodcast.com. Like I always say, please share your stories because you never know how your storyline can be somebody else's lifeline. So to my guests, thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, later.
Yeah.